Welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Arsenal Kids Podcast. My name is Maddie and today I'm joined by my co-host Ben, and it is great to have you join us for this episode.
Yes, hello listeners. Hello Maddie. Welcome to episode 167, and with football for both the men's and women's teams in full swing again. Maddie, do you want to tell us what we're going to talk about on this episode?
Well, in part one, let's look at the men's team recent Premier League game where they drew 2-2 with Aston Villa. And then we will look at the women's team who thrashed Crystal Palace with 5-0.
Sounds great. And then in part two?
Let's look at the women's team new head coach appointment, as well as the new professional contracts for our youngster and some transfer news.
A lot to talk about, as always, and a reminder to please like and share our content with others, and feel free to reach out to us at any time. We would love to hear from you.
Because we would love for you to join us on this episode adventure together.
We would indeed. And Maddie, straight then into what ended up a disappointing result at the Emirates in the Premier League for the men's team, who started brightly in the game against Aston Villa. And we had to set number of set pieces and a number of shots that tested the keeper early on, but arguably we were lucky to not be behind after Thomas Partey had a lapse in concentration and he threw a throw-in straight to Ollie Watkins from Villa, who had an opportunity to shoot with David Raya out of the goal, but fortunately his shot was over the bar. A nervous moment for us fans, but a let-off.
But not long after that we got the breakthrough.
Yes, it was. Mikel Merino fed Trossard on the left. He shifted the ball between his feet on the byline and sent in a fantastic teasing cross. And Gabriel Martinelli, who was starting on the right side of attack, he stole in front of the defender to get his foot to the ball first. And while the goalkeeper, ex-gunner Emi Martinez, got his hands to it, goal line technology confirmed the ball did go over the line, and so it was.
1-0 to Arsenal.
It was, and early in the second half, we got the second goal that our performance deserved, as Trossard again took on his defender on the left wing. This time, his cross was delivered into Kai Havertz, whose first-time shot went in off the keeper into the net, giving us a 2-goal lead on 54 minutes. I was thinking that this might be game over, but unfortunately, some poor defensive moments allowed Villa back into it, as just 5 minutes later, we did not get tight enough to a cross, and Merino allowed the slower and less robust Tielemans to get in front of him to finish at the near post, making the score 2-1. And then, less than 10 minutes later, the scores were level when another lack of concentration from Thomas Partey, allowing Ollie Watkins to peel off the back of him and head in a cross completely unmarked, drawing the team's level.
And while we had time to get another goal, we really missed having opportunities from the bench to change it up.
These players we know have played a lot of football recently, and you could see that fatigue starting to creep in. And while we could bring Sterling in off the bench, it really wasn't enough. As despite the replays to me anyway appearing unclear, VAR disallowed a goal after a Merino shot deflected off Havertz into the net. VAR thought it was handball. Havertz was adamant that it only hit his torso, his stomach, and despite it not meeting, I think, the threshold of a clear and obvious error, our hopeful winner was disallowed, and we were then unable to get anything more than a single point from this game. It means that we remain in second place on the league table, 6 points off Liverpool, and our next game means our attention now turns to the Champions League as we play Dinamo Zagreb at home.
Okay, well, let's turn our attention to the women's team now, who played their first game in 2025 at Meadow Park in the Super League.
And Maddie, what a game it was under new permanent head coach Renee Slegers, whose appointment we'll talk about in part two. The women's team lined up at Meadow Park and got the perfect start on 6 minutes after a Katie McCabe corner into a dangerous area was poked across the line by Leah Williamson, her first goal for almost 2 years, giving us an early lead.
And while we had more chances. It took us until the hour mark before we increased our lead on the scoreboard.
And it was Caitlin Ford who came on for Freedom Autumn with about an hour to go, who made an instant impact as she drifted in from the left as she tends to do and attempted to squeeze a shot in at the near post. While the goalkeeper did save it, the ball spilt out for Alessia Russo, who showed her great centre forward qualities to be able to respond the quickest and poke the ball into the roof of the net, meaning she has now scored in her last 6 consecutive Super League games and making the scoreline 2-0 to the Gunners.
And from the point on, the floodgates began to open.
Yes, not too long later, Russo turned provider by putting the ball on a plate for Beth Mead, who cushioned it home to make it 3-0. And then Caitlin Ford, who continued to attack, was brought down in the penalty area and the referee pointed to the spot. Mariona Caldente stepped up to the ball and calmly dispatched the penalty, making it 4-0. Before we found one more goal in stoppage time, as Russo cut in from the left and curled the ball, which smacked off the upright, rebounded to Caldente, who buried it to make it 5-0 for the Gunners.
And what does this mean for the team, Ben?
Well, Maddie, it leaves the team on 24 points and in second place following other results in the Super League. We trail the league leaders Chelsea by 7 points currently, as we are exactly at the halfway point of the season. Next up for the women's team is a midweek clash away to Brighton and Hove Albion in the quarterfinal of the Women's League Cup, which, as you'll remember, we've won in the previous 2 seasons.
Okay. Well, let's leave it there for part 1, and we'll be right back after this with part number 2. Welcome back, and Ben, straight to the news. You dropped at the start of the last episode a new women's team head coach.
Well, Maddie, the way that I've been saying it is that she is now the permanent women's head coach, as she is not new, having been at the club for a while now and in an interim role for the last 11 games the women's team have played. But Renee Slegers has signed a contract through to the end of the 25-26 season, and having performed well in her interim capacity since October of last year, she has been unbeaten in the 11 games in charge, with 10 wins and a draw, and the team scoring 31 goals and conceding just 5. It was enough for the powers that be that make these decisions to give her a go at the permanent gig.
And is it true, Ben, that she used to be a gunner?
Yes, Maddie, just like Mikel Arteta for the men's team, Renee used to be a gunner, having represented Arsenal as a player in our youth academy all the way back between 2006 and 2007. Her professional career included time with Willem in the Netherlands, Djurgårdens and Linköping in Sweden, while at international level, she won 55 caps for the Dutch national team before she retired from football in 2016.
And what about her coaching career? Is this her first job?
It isn't her first job. She had a 2-year spell in charge of Rosengard in Sweden, where she won back-to-back Swedish league titles before she joined the Gunners as an assistant coach in the summer of 2023. Despite being still quite young, she is well experienced, and she's looking forward to continuing in the role where she hopes that she can deliver something that is beautiful and most importantly, leads to winning trophies. So I'm excited to see her coaching philosophy play out, but so far, so good. As we reported in part 1, she started off with that 5-0 win. So we look forward with positivity now to a big second half to the season. The women's team are in with a chance in 4 competitions still. So let's get behind Renee and the team.
And talking of team, Ben, you mentioned that we have some new players who have signed professional contracts with the club.
You are correct, Maddie. We've got 2 women's team players who have now signed professional contracts with the club, having both turned 18 years of age. Madison Earle, our number 61, who has spent the first half of the season with Bristol City, has now signed professional terms with the club. And Madi, an attacking midfielder, an England youth international. She joined the Gunners at the age of 8 in 2015. And again, we got to see her first game for the team when she played in Melbourne at the end of last season. The other player is Viviana Leah, who's a winger and also an England youth international. And Vivian joined the Arsenal Academy at the age of 14 in 2021. And aside from her appearance in Melbourne last season, she also has 2 senior appearances for the club already on her record.
And then, where are they going to play?
Well, Madi, to continue their progression and gain further experience, both Madison and Vivian have been sent out on loan. Madi's joined Sheffield United for the rest of the season, where she'll hopefully get some good experience at the Championship club. And Vivian has joined Championship club Southampton. Both will hopefully get some good minutes at those clubs as they use these talented players on loan to the best of their abilities. And it'll be good to see what the next stage of their journeys towards Arsenal's first team might look like as that plays out over the coming years.
All the best for them. We also have another player who has just signed a pro contract.
Yes, Madi, we have a men's team, Theo Julian, who plays in both midfield and attack for the academy teams, and he also has signed professional contracts with the club. Although he does prefer the role in midfield, he's happy to play wherever the team needs him. So we wish him all the best for his ongoing future at the club.
And we also wish all the best to one of our players who is departing the club this transfer window.
Yes, Madi, it is a sad goodbye to Kathrine Kuhl, who's left the Arsenal women's team to join AS Roma on a permanent transfer for a fee believed to be around £100,000. She made her debut in January of 2023, having come in from Nordsjælland, and she's made 27 appearances in total for the Red and White, and she also made 10 while she was on loan at Everton. But with such a stocked midfield at the moment, she really has not been able to get a lot of game time with the Gunners, but hopefully she will in her next chapter in Italy, so we wish her all the best.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for joining us at Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Before we sign off, we will want to express our gratitude for your continued support. If you haven't already, please follow, like, and subscribe so you don't miss us in the future. Remember, your love for the beautiful game is what fuels our passion.
And we would love for you to spread the word about Arsenal Kids Podcast.
Yes, please share our podcast with other Arsenal kids you know and help us to grow this amazing community together.
We hope to join you back on the pitch again soon.
Keep the spirit of the game alive, and until next time,
Goodbye.